the spinner thing that stopped it.
There we
That
go. We are
okay.
live. Yes.
We are live. Welcome everybody to another Facebook Live with Dr. Nelva Bryant. Thank you so much for joining us today. We are excited because we are going to be talking about airline policies with our special guest. But first, I want you to please help me welcome Dr. Nelva Bryant, and please share some information about your expertise and how you got involved with Delta Airlines.
Oh, hello, everyone. Thank you, Greta. I'm Dr. Nelva Bryant. I am a veterinarian, and I kind of have an unusual career path that I've been on. Let's see, how did I get involved with the airline industry? Towards the end of my career, I actually fairly recently retired from the United States Public Health Service in 2018. I was in the role of the dog importation subject matter expert. So I got really familiar with dogs coming into the country, regulations behind it. I was a lot of times, my office was at the airport in Atlanta. So I got really involved with a lot of situations there. I really enjoyed it. 2018, I was retiring and I wanted an opportunity to kind of continue on that pathway as far as travel, animal transportation. And Delta Airline was advertising for a position for a veterinarian. And I jumped in and really just went for that position. And thank God I got it. And very happy being there. And as far as me sharing this information, I feel like because I'm in this role, I want to share what I can to help prepare pets for air travel. So you could say during a pandemic, develop When Pets Fly, and have expanded this past year to my social media presence to be on Instagram, my Facebook the Facebook Lives, and Facebook and Twitter. So and I also have a webpage too, a website, whenpets.com. So, but yeah, that's me. I'm here to share. I'm very passionate about animal transportation and preparing parents for transportation with their pets. That's me.
Absolutely. And Dr. Bryant is known as the pet travel expert, as she is the only veterinarian in the airline industry. And the world is definitely becoming more and more pet centric. And so it only makes sense that a veterinarian does work for an airline, because airlines, besides our pets that we take with us on trips, they also transport animals in cargo for zoos and breeders and for all kinds of reasons, even as part of rescue missions. And the whole world is really turning to make pet-centric policies, procedures, allowances for our pets, because we're taking them with us into our hotels with us, on trips, flying, as well as I just found out this week, and Dr. Bryant, you told me you knew, but there is actually one cruise line in the world that actually allows pets to travel with you. And I don't know if everybody else knows this, but let's see, Dr. Bryant, can you tell us the name of this cruise line?
I knew about it. I heard about it maybe a while back. It's Cunard, I believe, is the cruise line. They allow you to transport, I guess it's probably more of a European cruise, but maybe from New York to different parts of Europe they'll travel to, but they do allow pets on the cruise with you.
Yeah.
Not sure though. I don't think the pets are allowed to stay in your room, but still the fact that they, in a sense, they almost have like a boarding facility for pets on the cruise ship itself, which is awesome. So I think that's awesome that you can you want to travel internationally, you want to travel to Europe, you want to take along the scenic route, want to bring your pet. That's a great source to go on Cunard and everything. Yeah,
absolutely. And I had the pleasure. Actually, it was one of your fans, I shouldn't say fans, followers on Instagram, they alerted me about, did you know that there's a cruise line that allows pets? And I jumped right on it. Actually got on the phone with Cunard, with a representative from there, and interviewed them. I did write it up, and I placed the interview on winpets.com. You can find that under the news tab. That's where the article is. However, they've been around for a very long time, and the program is it is only an interatlantic continental transport from New York to England or to Germany and back, and that is the only route that it takes. They have several ships, and it is only on their Queen Mary 2. And usually there's not a lot of space for the pets. So it's on one of the decks, it's towards the back, and it's the kennel area. And they have about 24 kennels.
That's good.
So, and yeah, that's it. And all of the dogs or cats have to stay back there. You can take them out of the kennels. You can take them for a walk in that back area, but they are not allowed anywhere else on the cruise. On the ship. And they are not allowed to stay in your room. Now, I want to say this with a note that this is for your regular pets. They have a whole separate program for service dogs, which I am interviewing them about that, and I will report that later. So again, this information that I'm sharing is just for regular pets that you want to take with you from New York to England or New York to Germany. Let's see, and I have the costs on there as well.
How much is the cost? What's the price range for that? Something like that.
Well, for dogs, it is $1,000, and for cats, it is $800.
Okay.
So let's see. And they provide the kennels. I don't know, I forgot to ask at the time, can you bring your own kennel? But they provide kennels, they provide the bowls and the bedding, and they provide the food. Now, they do suggest to make it a more comfortable trip for your pet, you can bring like your own pillows and toys and stuff like that.
Right.
And if you have a special diet for your pet, they just ask you bring enough to last the whole trip.
Great.
The trip itself is 7 days to England, 9 days to Germany. And again, it's only out of New York. So if you want to find out more about this opportunity with Cunard Cruise Line, please visit our website where you will see the write-up that I did on it. And again, that's under our news. And it's, let's see, I think it should be the first article you see on there. So, but lots of information and a direct link to their website.
That's perfect for those that have that opportunity to go on a cruise and travel, and you want to bring your pet. That's perfect. I think, like I said, I can't wait to see your further information you learn regarding service animals, because that's going to be huge. And that's actually, I would imagine other other cruise lines would have that ability or capability for those that are going with service dogs, and definitely would need some probably some information and guidance in reference to that. So can't wait to learn more about that.
Right, absolutely. Now, before we jump into our topic for the day, I know that travel season is getting ready to come up for the summertime. And so Dr. Bryant does provide 30-minute consultations. So if anyone would like to book a consultation with Dr. Bryant, all you have to do is go to her website, winpets.com, and go to the contact area and just schedule a 30-minute consultation with her. She can answer questions specific to your pet so that it's a personal and private conversation, as well as guiding you on steps you'll need to take in preparing for your travel with your pet. So I do recommend that before you get started as a part of your planning for your vacation with your pet.
Definitely. Yeah, the season's about to start. We have been getting more questions on the Facebook group, and I don't know about the page that much, but I know on the Facebook group we're getting a lot more questions, a lot more people joining, and a lot of questions about either being transported in cabin or by, actually majority of them are going by in cabin transport. A lot of folks have the smaller dogs and want to travel with them and everything. So if you do need a consult with me, want to talk one-on-one and go over some things, I'm definitely here to help. It's more to it, as most folks just think. It's more to it than just, in a sense, grabbing my health certificate, because that's detailed. There's a lot of work involved with that behind the scenes that you're not aware of. Then also say, oh, I need a crate. Well, there's specific types of crates or carriers you might need, and you need to get that pet, your pet acclimated to being confined in it. And then just making sure you follow the policies for the airline too, as I say. So I think this Facebook Live is really good because we're going to go into details about in-cabin transport policies and also going by cargo. Be aware now with it all, each airline, it makes it difficult for the customer, I know, but each airline has their own policies. So whatever one you choose, just be aware you need to comply with those policies, because you might be able to get away. I would say you might be able to get away with fudging things a little bit. Okay, my dog might be a little bit different size than they recommend. Okay. And you might make it maybe 1, 2, 3, or four trips with no problem. But that fifth one, and you get an agent maybe that's more stickler to policy, and then you'll get a no. And then if you say, well, I've always done it that way, that's not a good response, because I may always drive 70 miles an hour down in a zone and never got pulled over. But that one time I do, I can't say that, well, I always do it. That's not going to get you out of a ticket. That's not going to get anyone to bend the rules for you. Policies are policies. So just be aware of that. So, but do your due diligence regarding that and everything.
Yes, absolutely. Now, today's episode is about airline policies. And let's see, we do have a special guest named Juan DeVarez, and he's from Delta, just like Dr. Bryant. He's running a little late, so it actually works for us, because Dr. Bryant will be able to cover more about in-cabin, and Juan will be able to speak more to in cargo. So why don't, Dr. Bryant, you and I talk about in-cabin while we're waiting for Juan, and help out our pet parents in the things that they should know, the things that they should do, and the things that they should expect while with having their pets travel in cabin. Mm-hmm. So I think that, in several episodes prior to this one, we have pointed out and repeated in saying the most important thing you can do in preparing your pet for travel in airline is to get them acclimated to the crate. Yes. So I know that because I saw it on Delta Airlines website, they have the actual measurements that your carrier in cabin should be. Mm-hmm. And I know that, with other episodes, we have even suggested or recommended some carriers that have been airline approved. And we mean officially airline approved, such right. as the Sherpa pet carrier, which is number one because they are the carrier that set the standard. So yes. If we were to give any other recommendation, the one carrier your pet will be able to get on board with is a Sherpa pet carrier.
Definitely. Remember, we had the originator, basically the trailblazer, yep. Gail March here on actually some of our probably third episode, if anything, first or second or third episode. Gail March was here. We basically had a history lesson from her because she's a trailblazer that really made it possible for pets to be transported in cabin. And yes, she designed the Sherpa bag. So a lot of times folks will say Sherpa bag because that's almost like it's almost like the generic name for the pet carriers. Oh, I got a Sherpa bag. But actually, she designed the original Sherpa bag that's been airline approved for pets being transported in cabin. But yeah.
Yes, absolutely. So, any other bag that you may purchase, you want to at least make sure they fit the standard in size and shape, as well as comfort for your pet if it's going in cabin. Because now that pet travel is becoming more and more popular through airlines, they are becoming more and more stringent. Now, Dr. Bryant, can you share with us, let's see, what are your recommendations for having the best pet parent and pet travel experience in cabin?
Well, remember, we also had some other folks here too that shared their in-cabin experience. Was it Sharon? Also shared some things too. So again, go back previously, Sharon and I forgot her dog's name, but they're frequent travelers. My thing is Teddy. Thank you. They were prepared.
Yes.
She more or less recommended, as far as a time frame, getting there. I mean, you want to get to the airport, of course, with ample time to check in and everything. But I would say get there with ample time to check in. Make sure your pet gets a nice potty break before you board, and taking care of that prior to getting to the airport with your pet going in cabin. Might be good to also get into a routine or set up a standard where you go for a good walk to tire your pet out as well. Make sure, feed them a couple hours beforehand, go on a nice little walk so they're a little bit tired. Another potty break before you go to your gate, and then you should be prepared for it. But backtrack a little bit. Acclimation to the crate is the most important thing. You want to make sure they're comfortable and with going in it, knowing that that's their den, that's their safe haven during transport, and that really is a necessary thing for them. So, and main thing with it, you can't get this. It doesn't happen overnight. It's going to take time and effort towards getting your pet acclimated to the process, and also for you to calm down too. You have to realize if you're nervous, you're going to make your pet nervous. So you got to be relaxed on the whole process and be comfortable with it, and just do it. Basically, get into a routine and follow that each and every time you fly with your pet in cabin.
Yes. We have on the website, winpets.com, we have several videos of pet parents and their recommendations of flying. But Sharon, as you mentioned, gave some great tips. So we all know that you should be to the airlines a minimum of 2 hours early. What she said, if you were traveling with your pet, you should be there at minimum 3 hours early, but she actually does 4 hours early. And the reason why, going to your point, Dr. Bryant, is that, number one, her dog, Teddy, the crate itself is his safe space, as you mentioned. And so she never puts the crate away. So it's actually in her house. And whenever Teddy wants, he goes in there to get away from the world. And so when they travel, now he's already has in his mind that this is my safe space. She takes 4 hours because now it's a whole new environment that Teddy is going to be exposed to. And she can take her time to navigate whatever is happening from her home to the airlines, and then navigating through the airlines to get on board the plane itself. And with her staying calm, her pet stays calm. And then they get on the plane itself, keeping him safe in his safe space, and being put underneath the seat helps out, and then they take their flight together. But I just noticed that Juan has joined us, so I am going to add Juan to our conversation. Let's see, he should be popping in any minute. And let's see. Hi, Juan.
Hi, thank you. I'm sorry I was late. I was caught up in traffic, but I'm here.
I'm glad you're here. I appreciate it. I'll let you do your introduction, but I'll just have to say I'm very happy that Juan and I have been working together since November 2021. Very happy to work with him. Very happy to work with someone with his background. So that's why I wanted to share with everyone on my Facebook Live of just, again, remember folks, I love to share the interesting people I've met that's related to pet travel. So adding Juan on there because I love his expertise. So guys, welcome Juan.
So I will read his introduction and then we'll go continue our conversation. So Juan DeVarez, the program manager and business development for live animals at Delta Airlines, has extensive knowledge and sales experience of live animal transport worldwide, having previously worked for Etihad Cargo, Airbridge Cargo, and Air France KLM. In addition to being highly skilled with the transportation of live animals, he has expertise in the transport of horses. He joined Delta Airlines in November 2021. So if everyone could please help me and Dr. Bryant welcome Juan to our Facebook Live today. Juan, sometimes we have an electronic clapper.
Yeah, yeah. I'm sorry. See, he sees me more serious at work. I do sometimes have a goofy side. So you see, he sees me always serious. He's always smiling, and I'm like, "What are you smiling at?" But yeah, he's always happy-go-lucky, good person to be around. So that's good. I'm happy you're here, Juan. I really appreciate it. Yes, we summarized his. He's got a huge background, but I summarized it and everything. But you can tell us more, anything further, Juan, in reference as far as your background.
No, thank you so much for the opportunity. I really appreciate it, and I'm happy to be here. Like Dr. Bryant said, I mean, I call her Dr. B.
Mm-hmm.
So we sit next to each other. We talk. Oh my God, so much throughout the day.
Wait. We have to say though, we talk so much, but he'll start a sentence and then I'll finish it. And it's the most hilarious thing. I know what he's thinking, which is for the first time in my whole career. I've never had that with anybody. So it's a joy. It's like he'll say something, and I know exactly what he's talking about. He'll say, "What's that person's name?" Then I'll pop up with the name. So I love it.
Yes, it is so funny because she actually knows what I'm thinking and what I'm talking about without me even mentioning a name. Mm-hmm. She knows what we're talking about. Yep. So it's just amazing. We have done so many changes in the live animals product for Delta. And it's all thanks to Dr. Bryant. I mean, it's just been amazing to work with her, working through for the entire process and changing procedures, processes, forms that help the staff now handling the animals. And actually, we have a lot more to do. So we're actually working on so many projects. Every airline is different. We have to go through different processes in order to change policies, but we're getting there. And little by little, and actually the company has noticed that. So it's so good to have. She has me and I have her. So with previous roles that I didn't have anybody, so I couldn't communicate. And obviously having Dr. Bryant and all her knowledge in pet transport is amazing. So. She knows way too much when it comes to pet travel, to be honest.
Well, that's a good thing, and that's why she's the pet travel expert. We were talking to the people on Facebook Live and explaining to them how you are more on the in-cargo side of things. With that allows pet parents to be able to send their pets either through in-cargo, especially the larger dogs and stuff like that. But also there's so many other people besides pet parents that are shipping animals through cargo. Yep. So can you tell us, some recommendations on what people should know in preparation and during the flight itself?
Sure. So every species is different. One of the key things for me when it comes to pets, that pet has to be acclimated to that container. You take a lot of stress from a pet if that animal is already acclimated to that container. If you put an animal into a container now into a different environment, obviously I mean, think about a warehouse. There's a lot of noise going on. There's a lot of things going on at the same time, and then that animal is not acclimated to that container, and then it's sitting in the warehouse for a while. It's good, it's gonna get some anxiety. Then from there, being transported to the ramp, there's more noise, the jet noise. Then now it's next to an aircraft. It's even more noisy. So acclimation to that container, it's key. It's number one when it comes to pet travel. Things that you need to look for: sufficient food, right, to have on top of the container. That water receptacle that needs to be there. One of the things, and Dr. Bryant could actually tell you more about this as well. We got to Delta. We just changed the policy for warm-blooded animals. So before there was a restrictions for all warm-blooded animals not to travel on any flights over 12 hours. So we just changed that. Actually, that will go into effect May 1st. And what we've done when it comes to the pet side of warm-blooded, we actually now we're going to require a water container. It's actually it's like a device that sits on the outside of the container. So that pet will have water continuously all throughout the journey if need be. So we increased actually now that will go into effect also as of May 1st, the minimum age for pet travel from 8 weeks to 12 weeks for those flights as well. So we're trying to accommodate the customer as much as possible. We also working on the rebranding. So we bought, I don't know if Dr. Wright had mentioned it. So we bought about 21. Okay. Mm-hmm. So we bought about 21 pet transport vans, right? They has been strategically placed all over the hubs, the different hubs that we have. We're currently working on the branding of those vans. So all the steps that we're taking at the moment is in preparation to the relaunch of the pet program, right? Mm-hmm. So we want to do it. I think we owe it to our customers, but we want to do it the right way. And having those vans it's key. One of the other things that we're working on is it's training for our staff. We want to get every single staff member that deals with live animals in our view has to be IATA certified. So we're working towards that as well. So that's why we haven't relaunched the program yet, the pet program, but we only transport military pets at the moment. But we are actually taking the steps to, like I said, to relaunch that pet program.
Yeah, as I've told other folks outside of here, there's so many moving parts when it comes to us with Delta and potentially relaunching of the pet program that, it's not as simple as, Juan's coming on board, made outstanding changes to the policies, but it's not as simple as everyone thinks of saying, okay, you change the policy, because it has to go through like a FAA kind of a security risk assessment process. And that, he knows I hate those things. They're so grueling to me. I'm like, oh my God, they're grueling. But we have to go through this process, and it's not as simple. Actually, it's a great process because any change you make, you have to figure out the risk for it. And if there is a risk, how are you going to mitigate that risk? So you have to go through all these things with it. And something simple as changing a time frame or something. You've got to figure out the risk of the brand, the risk of people involved working. There's a lot of things you have to consider. So everyone think, oh, we'll just change the policy. Not that simple. So just be aware Delta is working towards relaunching the program. There's so many moving parts to get it back established so we can give, as we said before, these Juan said, the best in service, gosh darn, I said it wrong. The best in service. Is that what you said, Toby?
The best in class, wasn't
it? Thank you. There it is. We want to be the best in class.
Yes.
To do that, there's a lot of things we need to do to make changes. The rebranding and having the vans, it's huge. That means the animals are now going to be transported. We're going to ensure they're transported from cargo to plainside in a temperature-controlled van. And they're not exposed to any temperatures. So folks know, too, for going by cargo, they're loaded last. So they'll be the last one on. So they'll be sitting in a van specifically for them, waiting, and then they'll be placed onto the thing. So everything we're doing is for the safety of animals. So I know folks are waiting for us, but let us do our due diligence for the safety of animals moving forward.
Absolutely. And as a side note, Dr. Bryant, when you and Juan were talking about the vans, perfect place to put Zounds as a side note to everybody, so that the comfort of the.
Right. I haven't shared that with Juan yet, but yeah, Juan, I know someone that does music for pets. It's called Sounds Music for Pets. And they found through music, basically music therapy, how to relax animals and everything. So that's a potential. Yeah.
The ARC at JFK has just combined with them, and now they're being offered at the ARC.
That's amazing. That's amazing. It's really amazing. We so part of that as well. I mean, we were looking at probably bring the ARC into being part of our network. We want to obviously, instead of having those animals go to a facility, to a warehouse facility, we want to see if they could go actually through the ARC, so they could be. So we have the acceptance done there. So any export, import, or even in transit of animals at JFK. To be done through there. So we're going to be talking more with those folks up there in the next coming months. And then we're conducting a risk assessment of something else right now. It's a huge thing. But once we're done with that, we're going to be concentrating on probably creating a live animals facility in Atlanta, being the hub.
Nice.
Yes. And not only will be for Delta, yes, primarily will be Delta, but we'd be more than happy to offer that to other airlines that fly, fly animals in and out of Atlanta.
Absolutely.
Hey, Greta, about that, the idea there, trust me, when he said it to me, all I could do was just smile, because I'm like, dang, I thought about that too. That would be awesome.
We talked about that 2 years ago.
I always said that there would be great to have an ARC down in Atlanta, a facility like that. And then he started saying it, and I was just like, just smiling, like, already thought about it. That's a good one. Yeah. That's really good. Well, you know what? I know we're bouncing around, but one other thing I wanted to highlight, make sure it's highlighted, because I'm really proud of this, that Juan pushed this forward. But Juan, please tell them about the United for Wildlife. I think that's awesome.
Sure. Yes. So the United for Wildlife was created by Prince Williams and the Royal Foundation. So Delta actually just signed the declaration of United for Wildlife yesterday. There will be a big announcement done on the 18th. So yes, that because of that, we're gonna have some training done with some NGOs as well as U.S. Customs, U.S. Fish and Wildlife. So we want to make sure that what we're transporting is, it's not hurting the environment, and we want to conserve that species, especially when it comes to wildlife. So that would be a huge thing for Delta, and that's it. And it's a team effort. So we have to have a lot of meetings with different stakeholders within the company, even though it's only affecting cargo at the moment. But I mean, all the way from legal to government affairs to sustainability, all of those departments were actually involved in that. So
Juan, for people who do not know Prince William's United for Wildlife, could you please explain what it is?
Sure. So it's a so they have basically 11 pillars that they go by, and to summarize some of them, it's related to combating illegal wildlife trade, not only on the cargo side but also the passenger side, making sure that people are not smuggling any type of wildlife, whether it's a bird or monkeys and things like that. And it actually goes even beyond that. They help you educate your passengers as well. I mean, ivory, for example, most people don't know that ivory is on the CITES. And you could go to any country, buy ivory, or you try to bring it to the US, and customs will see it. They will probably seize it if you don't have the correct paperwork, including a CITES permit. So they will give you all the tools that you need in order to educate your customers, but also and bringing awareness to your staff. So basically, it's just that, trying to combat illegal wildlife trade and try to eradicate that.
No, and another thing that it does too, I mean, wildlife, I hate to say it, but who knows how our next pandemic potentially could get here to the U.S. could be through something that's smuggled here to the U.S. So we got to be mindful of that. Right. Wildlife trafficking is for also prevent disease transmission too. So,
yes,
yeah,
that is correct. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, that's fantastic. Congratulations on that. So I hope that you guys will share the information so that we can also place it on Dr. Bryant's website and share with her followers about this huge success. But I want to jump back to policies and all that good stuff, since that's why people are going to watch this feverishly after we're done. But you mentioned you guys were, working on recreating the program and the policies and the procedures, and there was going to be a rollout. Do you know if that will be this year or if it'll be next year? What can everyone expect in the new program?
Sure. So there's a few things, like I said before, that have to be taken care of before we do the relaunch. So one of them being obviously changing in few of the policies, which we doing that at the moment. Second, it's the part of the training aspect to have every single um, acceptance staff live animals regulation certified, and then obviously the vans, which is a huge aspect of, of the program. Dr. Bryant and I are actually currently working on looking at the different facilities throughout the U.S. And making sure that they are able to handle the live animals safely. But we're gonna categorize in different ways. So maybe I don't know, not Minneapolis, but okay, Cincinnati, for example. Maybe they are able to handle pets, but they may not be able to handle birds in the same way. So we could probably open Cincinnati for pets, for cats and dogs, but maybe not for birds. So we're gonna be looking at all those things. So do they have a kenneling facility outside of the airport as well? Maybe do they have a bonded facility at the airport or close by the airport? So all those things are actually taking place at the moment. Dr. Bryant said before, there's so many things that actually play a role into this. So not until all these boxes are actually checked will we relaunch the PEP program. So I wanted to actually relaunch it by September this year. We also, and probably by September, October, we're gonna have what we call a live animal desk. So all of the paperwork, container requirements, and all that is gonna go through that group of people that will be able to tell the customers, yes, you have the correct paperwork. No, you don't have the correct paperwork. Or yes, you do have the correct container, or no, you don't have the correct container. You need to do these modifications depending on the species that you're moving, whether it's a pet or a bird or a monkey, whatever the case might be. So all that has to be in place. Ideally, like I said, want it to be done by September. Obviously, there's so much to do that I don't think we're gonna make that. We're probably looking at maybe the end of the year, if not Q1 2024, and maybe not maybe, but perhaps what we probably gonna do is just open up certain stations, maybe the hubs at the beginning, and then just roll it out little by little, depending on the capabilities of each station.
Okay.
Yeah, like I said, it's saying so many moving parts. One area, like I said, we've got to make sure that there's veterinary services or boarding facilities nearby all of these locations. And it's kind of tough because nationwide, it'd be nice if nationwide, there's no one set, say, boarding facility company that makes sure they're everywhere. Nationwide, there are veterinary service providers. You've got your Blue Pearls, ECAs, all these other veterinary entities of providing emergency veterinary care that can be developed. But again, what we're working on is trying to establish all that stuff. So all moving parts.
Well, we're definitely here to announce anything that you do. So, at any part in the rollout, even if it's sectioned off, please let us know so that we can share that information and blast it out for you. Because we have lots of people who are interested in the policies, and lots of people, as you can imagine, are waiting for airlines to start allowing more and more transportation. So we definitely want to be a source for you to share that information.
Thank you.
So let's see. So I know that a lot of people have reached out to me through the week in preparation for this Facebook Live. So I know Dr. Bryant is more about in cabin and Juan is about in cargo. So I will shoot some questions out that did come in. And honestly, they sound like questions that are recommendations or tips towards preparation. So one question that had come in that I was able to get in a banner is, and this is for you, Dr. Bryant, because it's about in cargo. Can a dog remain in a carrier but fly in the seat next to you?
I think that's very unlikely unless you purchase two seats for the aircraft. But no, they're supposed to be sit in your carrier underneath the seat in front of you. They're supposed to sit comfortably there. So the answer would be no. Like I said, unless they are willing to pay for two seats, I think that's very unlikely. But again, I would say check with other airlines. I don't believe Delta would allow it. I think in generally, they're going to want that pet to fit in this carrier underneath the seat in front of you. And that's usually the rule for that. Only animal that's going to be out is going to be a service dog. And they have to meet the requirements for that, being a service dog.
You know what? You just brought up a very good point, and we didn't mention anything about it so far. Has there been changes in policies or procedures for service dogs? So let's talk about them. I know that they are in cabin more than they are in cargo. So is there anything that people with service dogs should know?
Well, the only thing that's changed since the pandemic, we know, is the difference between emotional support dogs and service dogs, basically. There was before the pandemic, I think it was like what? I think around January 2021 is when it was finally determined that the only dogs that's allowed only animal that's allowed as a service a service animal is going to be a service dog. And it excluded the potential of emotional support dogs or cats or whatever, peacocks, whatever, because the DOT has determined that those were pets. So if you have your personal pet that you want to bring on board, if it fits in a crate or carrier underneath the seat in front of you, great. If not, it goes by cargo. The only dogs that will be out in the cabin is a true service dog, and you have to have the documentation for them in reference to that. So, but yeah, that's the main thing I see that's changed since the pandemic as far as service dogs traveling in cabin. So yeah, they're saying, can I have my dog out in cabin? Service dogs are not supposed to be in the seat. They're supposed to still be in your foot space of the passenger, in the foot space.
Right. Now, the one thing I do know about service dogs is when they come on, if they are on the flight with you, the person and the dog are typically either in that part of the plane where there's extra foot space. And I think that might be right around the exit area where
can't sit in that exit. Nope. No way. No, I mean that hazard there and the potential there, they're not going to let them go in that location, unfortunately.
Okay, and then I know the other place that I've seen them is in first class. Because the dog needs some space to lay down,
right?
Which between the seats of regular seats, it's not enough.
Yeah, just again, always be careful and just again, check with the airline policies in reference to service dogs as far as there are limitations on which areas. I know Delta has the great Delta One, great place to be, but I don't think service animals are allowed in that space. But again, check with the airline for their policies as far as service animals to ensure you're compliant, basically.
I know that on your website, winpets.com, we do have under the travel pet prep, there you have links to all of the policy pages to all of the airlines in America. So for international travel, we didn't cover that, but that's a easy place to get to if people are looking up those policies. A question that actually was sent to me and I didn't get to create a banner for was someone asked, and I'll paraphrase, they know that there is recommendations for the types of crates they should get in cargo. And I wanted to, number one, ask if you're able to give any recommendations of what you think is the perfect crate for in cargo travel.
I'm gonna be honest with you. What we're gonna be looking for is a container that is, or crate that is in compliance with IATA live animals regulations, container requirement number 1. So part of, like I said, part of the live animals team duties is actually educate the customers when it comes to the container and what type of container that they should be using. Like I said, we're gonna be looking at the container requirement number 1 for basically cats and dogs, and as long as they meet those requirements, that's all we're gonna. That's how we're gonna allow them to travel as cargo. If it doesn't fall, if it's missing something that is not making them compliant, unfortunately, they will not be able to fly with us.
The other question that came in for in-cargo was if they did not have their own crate, like they could get them there, but it might not be compliant for in-cargo. Does the airline have crates that their pet can go into?
No, we don't. We don't. We probably when we bring back the program, we may. Dr. Bryant and I actually visited the KLM Animal Hotel in Amsterdam, and they do have compliant crates just in case. So, for example, take Amsterdam being the hub, right? So you have animals transiting. If they have an animal that left origin without a compliant crate, that shouldn't happen, but it did happen. So what they will do, they will swap the container during the transit in Amsterdam, but they will charge that container to the customer. So just to make sure that animal gets to destination on a compliant container. We're probably going to be looking at that as well, but that we're probably only having at the hubs, which where all the international flights will come in and leave out of. So you talk about probably 8 different stations in the U.S. only. We could probably have those containers positioned just in case a transit dog or cat arrives without on a non-compliant container.
Yeah, I know in the past Delta did, and this was a couple of years back. They would have some crates available that they could swap out and charge the pet owner, but with IATA, LAR, the container requirements changing, it's kind of difficult to keep you can't stockpile them anymore because the requirements have changed. So we might sell you something and it doesn't meet the requirements, and like Juan said, transfer to Amsterdam or some other country that actually puts IATA LAR requirements in their regulations as far as their governmental regulations. They're going to be tagged either way. So yeah, we don't sell them any longer at the present time, but it would be good, like you're saying, Juan, to kind of have a few available at some of the hubs over time that meet the requirements. But I keep saying it's hard to find those crates in the U.S. Who's building a compliant crate? I mean,
yeah. Well, I know, Dr. Bryant, you and I went on like a deep dive search for just to be able to put on your website a recommended crate. Right. And we found one that was located in another country before we found one here in the States. So we did put up both of them. We did find one here in the States. So the one overseas is Magnum crates, which we recommend. But again, that's out of the country. But they're the absolute most perfect and they meet all IATA details. The other one that is here is impact, but I had the right to article as the only one of impact's crates that we can recommend is the one that they have that is completely solid and breakout proof.
Collapsible, can't use it.
They have a collapsible one that we do not recommend.
Okay.
But that's the only one here in the States that we found.
No, and it's true. And then you probably go to pet shipping, not a pet shipping company, but to a store and actually find a crate that actually tells you it's okay for air travel, and it's not. So you actually go ahead and buy it, and then you get there, and the acceptance staff is going to tell you, "I'm sorry, it doesn't meet the requirements." So it's very misleading, unfortunately, for the consumer and obviously for pet owners. And I think that has to change. We part of the whole thing that we're doing. Dr. Bryant's been working on this as well a lot. Is changing our website, so customers could go and actually get a lot of information about it, and we could actually we're thinking about putting what the requirements are, at least for cats and dogs, when it comes to container requirements, so they know, okay, so this is the requirements, this is what the things that I'm going to be looking for when I go buy a container.
Yeah, because pet parents, we really want to know. We want to do what's right and we want to be in compliance, but it's so hard when, like you mentioned, someone's saying, yeah, I got the compliant crate and it's falling apart, or, it's collapsing in, or you can take it apart and it's not compliant. And it's not fair that we buy it under those advertisements and we get to the counter at Delta Airlines and Juan says, turn around or buy this crate.
No. Or he said no. Dr. B said no, but yeah, Juan said no.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right. So, but that's one article that I actually want to put together, is just one place that, everybody can look to see what is the true compliant crate that can go in cargo and the true compliant carrier that can go in cabin.
Right.
And that's why we repeat all the ones that we recommend, as the true ones, because anything else is just fugazi. It's false advertisement. So,
sure.
Let's see. There was another question. Now, okay. So I know we talked about crates extensively in cabin. We talked about crates in cargo. Let's see. Juan, when animals are getting ready to go through in cargo, I know in cabin, we've talked extensively about, get them used to the crate and try to be calm and, to keep the animal calm. So I know you've seen crazy stories, or heard crazy stories, or seen animals that, escape, their crates and are running around. So what are some tips that you can give for people who are packing up the animals to send through the cargo, so you don't have to see crazy animals running around inside the plane?
Sure. I think, like I said before, acclimating the animal to the container will be number one, because obviously that will take all the anxiety out of the animal, and so they're used to it, so they won't get freaked out. From our side, we're gonna do everything possible to keep him away from trying to keep. We do have at least in Atlanta, we do have a pet room, so we keep them over there away from the noise, right? Because we don't want them to be around noisy, any noisy area, except for when they're being transported to the aircraft. But for example, from Delta, and you need to check, every airline might be different. We don't allow any unfortunately, any toys inside the container. We do allow some absorbent material inside the container. That is as per the regulations. But yeah, unfortunately, that needs to be taken out of there. All the toys and any color needs to be taken out of there as well. So be aware of that. That you may show up with that, and we might tell you, "I'm sorry, you have to take it out, or you need to remove that." Like I said, the container for water needs to be present. If it doesn't have to have water, but that receptacle has to have that container needs to have that. The same ones for food, and then some extra food on top of the container as well, just in case. We work for an airline. Weather influence our schedule, so we don't want to run into a delay or even a cancellation in transit or even a destination or even origin, and don't have any food for the animals. So that's why it's a requirement that that we have extra food on top of the container. We're not gonna use it unless in that type of situations where there's an extended delay or cancellation, and then obviously we need to the animal needs to be fed. And most likely that animal, and I have my dog, and he's got his diet. I know I don't want him to be eating any other stuff, so that's why we're gonna feed him that particular food that was given by the owner. Obviously, some animals have allergies and whatnot, so we want to make sure that all throughout the journey they are being given the same treatment as they get at home. So
Absolutely. Well, I got to tell you, Dr. Bryant, I just looked up and saw this time flew by so fast because I was just going to start bringing out the rest of the questions.
Everything. But yeah, I would say, like I said, I thank you, Juan, for coming and everything. We check. I would say for folks that are not sure about our policies with Delta, folks understand there's two sides to Delta. We have the above wing and then we have below wing. Juan is, and I'm sitting in the same section with Juan, but we do cargo, so that's below the wing primarily, going by cargo. Then if there's questions for that, I think I gave you, Greta, if there's any questions as far as transporting their pet by cargo or any other animal by cargo, go to the liveanimals@delta.com. We will answer all the questions regarding that. If you have questions about pets going pet in cabin, all that stuff, that's a different section than us. The policies are different than us. You can ask us a question and I'll try my best to answer it, but most likely I'm going to forward it to passenger services. And I believe I gave you that information too, Greta. But folks need to realize it's not just one unit. And I think I don't know, in your experience, Juan, is it always separated out that way? Or have you ever seen an airline that has just one unit that handles all live animals from that one section?
it used to working for Etihad. It was only one unit, so I was the program manager for live animals at Etihad, and I oversee whatever was happening on passenger as well. KLM I think is the same, but every airline is different. Delta is such a huge organization, so they have obviously the passenger side, and then even the reservations for those animals in cabin. It goes through passenger service. The same when you call to make your to buy your ticket. That's the same way you book your pet in cabin. While in cargo, you have to either go to deltacargo.com or you could call the customer service number for cargo. So it's totally different business unit. So yeah, like Dr. Bryant says, it's just a huge organization and it's just divided into. We work together, but the policies sometimes are different, because the business unit are different.
Right.
Absolutely. Well, Juan, is there any last things that you want to tell people from the cargo side?
No, just like I said, I'm happy to be here. I'm happy to share those my experiences in the industry. Just give us a little bit more time. We're working towards relaunching of the PEP program, but like I said before, we want to do it, but we want to do it right. And I think, like I said before, we owe that to our customers. We owe that to the pet owners and to the pets themselves. So it's gonna come back and it will be big. So just stay tuned.
That's fantastic. I know people are really eager and waiting to see what Delta has to roll out because you guys are one of the leaders in the industry. So it definitely will make big news. And Dr. Bryant, there any last things you want to share about in cabin?
Well, no, about in cabin. I'll just say in general, thank you, Juan, for being here. I am happy that he is on the team. I think we're now really, we're ready to go. We've got the best team, even though the team is just him and I, but we've got the best foundation.
That's all that counts.
Going, and I'm really happy to be working with him. And I really thank you for joining us on here and everything. So, yeah, that's what I have.
No, thank you. I appreciate it. And no, thank you for the invite. Anytime.
Yeah. No,
Absolutely. Well, I thank you both for your time. It's time for us to all go, but we'll definitely have you back, Juan, because there's more to talk about. And thank you so much for sharing your experience, giving your recommendations, and updating everyone on Delta on our Facebook Live. So it's time for us to sign off, but thank you, everyone who will watch this, and we look forward to sharing more information with you soon.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Bye.